the recent greenlight and fast approaching release date on Steam, I figure it's about time we see an actual review for La-Mulana since the game doesn't exactly see much talk outside of Playism or goodoldgames.com. La-Mulana is best described as an action-adventure platformer game, or, to put it better, a Metroidvania. You take on the role of Professor LaMesa as you explore the ruins of La-Mulana and find power-ups in order to solve the mystery of life, or more specifically, loot the ruins. If you've ever played a Metroid game or a Castlevania, then you'll feel quite comfortable with La-Mulana since the game is heavily inspired from both genres. The game is very open-ended and you can complete areas and even bosses in whatever patterns you wish. It really does stay true to the fan-established Metroidvania genre. The history of La-Mulana is a rather short and uneventful one, but I feel it should be touched upon due to the differences in the games. La-Mulana began in the year 2001 as a freeware project made by a bunch of Japanese people. The project was aimed to emulate the charm and gameplay seen in Japan's old console, the MSX. La-Mulana freeware would be completed in 2006, and then eventually the team would fade off the face of the earth. Soon after the completion of the freeware version, though, the developers of the original La-Mulana would come together to create Nigoro, and in 2011 they released the remake of La-Mulana on the Wii, complete with very updated graphics and an entirely new engine, also with some DLC. While the WiiWare version of this game would only be seen in Japan, 1 year later Nigoro released La-Mulana again for the PC, complete with all the DLC and a little bit more extra toys to play with. Oddly enough, the freeware and paid remakes of La-Mulana are two completely different games due to different game engines, so for the sake of the review, I played the 2012 remake, complete with all the new stuff, acquired from goodoldgames.com. In terms of actual gameplay, La-Mulana plays itself out really well. As stated before, this is a Metroidvania style of game in which you explore many vast interconnected areas and find power-ups in order to make Professor LaMesa stronger and more apt at exploring the ruins of La-Mulana. The big draw of this game, though, is the puzzle aspect of the game and the fact that it's very non-linear. While in the beginning there were many simple, easy-to-solve puzzles in one room, many puzzles later on not only required different rooms in certain areas, but sometimes you even had to traverse completely different areas altogether in order to solve puzzles. These clues are often found littered across the game on tablets or even the very corpses of previous adventurers that tried to explore La-Mulana and failed miserably. The game litters a gross amount of cryptic information on you, so much that the game's mascot even tells you to get a notepad, and this is very true because there are a lot of clues. The game's intricate puzzle design, however, is often a double-edged sword when it comes to players, because oftentimes the game's clues can become so cryptic that it intimidates many players and often leads to them resorting to guides in order to solve puzzles that often make you feel like an idiot once you realize how easy it is to solve these puzzles. There's also kind of a bit of a thing best called Resident Evil syndrome, where oftentimes you'll find a key in order to gain access to a key, in order to unlock a room which gives you a key in order to get to another key. And oftentimes you can find yourself trying to figure out which puzzle do I have to solve, and it can really get confusing. The actual game mechanics of La-Mulana are pretty rock solid. If you ever played Castlevania at all, you'll be quite at home with the engine. Initially, the game starts you off with just jumping and whipping. Your jump has a decent arc, and midair steering only works at the apex of your jump. Your whip has a pretty fast attack and has a really disjointed hitbox, which is great for dealing with out-of-reach enemies. As you play the game more and more, though, you unlock a lot more mechanics that include different melee weapons, different projectile weapons, and more platforming elements such as wall grabs or double jumps, or even faster runs. Any item you acquire that unlocks a new game mechanic often sets you up in a benign area to test it out, so there's ample time to learn its tricks also. All the weapons you unlock this game all have unique styles and satisfying crunches when you slay enemies with them. It often feels really good to do stuff like kill a skeleton with an axe, or maybe stab a unicorn with a sword. It's a very tight system, and the game is ingeniously designed around its mechanics. It's not groundbreaking or innovative in any sense of the word, but the devs knew what the hell they were doing when they made this game, and boy did they make it really satisfying. In terms of aesthetics design, the game looks absolutely stunning. The goal of the La-Mulana remake was to maintain an old-school sprite feel to the game, and not only did Nigoro achieve this, but it set a really high bar in terms of visual design. The game's sprite style resembled the glory days of the SNES and PlayStation era of gaming, with high detail sprites and wide color ranges working together to make insanely detailed backgrounds. Character sprites are a bit small, but they still have that high level of detail for every character in the game, ranging from Professor Lemeza to every support NPC in this game, even the monsters as well. Animations in the game are all in a blazing 60 frames per second and are all well animated, but there are certain minor enemies, and actually most bosses, all feel like they have their animation budgets cut, and they're more tuned to sprite shifting rather than legit movement for animation frames. The big culprits of this are Anubis and Tiamat. While the game at times looks shoddy in motion, it still manages to be visually pleasing all the time, and certainly captures the old-school charm of retro gaming that Nigoro was aiming for. And I often feel that it sets a higher bar of standards when you want to do retro gaming animation. The PC port of the La-Mulana remake from the Wii came with a lot of bells and whistles. If you bought the game for the PC, you had access to every DLC that the WiiWare users had to wait for, including Hell Temple and many other cute little things. The game doesn't have actual widescreen ratios, but it does give you the option to play in widescreen and gives you canvases to use, rather than leaving you with black bars like most games resort to nowadays. The game engine is very stable, but oftentimes you'll find yourself succumbing to slight dips in frames per second when going through high detail areas. The game also supports a variety of gamepads and lets you configure keybinds as well, so you don't ever feel out of place. There's also a jukebox mode in the options menu if you ever want to jam to the songs of the game without, running through the entire level. It's really nice. A neat little touch. If you got brass balls and are willing to put the work into it, La-Mulana is a really great game. It expects a lot of the player, outright telling everyone in the trailer that this is a game where you learn from death, so go forth and die! While demanding, each hurdle cleared will follow with a great sense of satisfaction as the player gets to explore new areas and face dangerous and exciting foes. It pokes at a player's natural urge to explore and conquer in surprisingly effective ways, leading to a very engaging and entertaining experience. So if you're daring enough, follow the mascot's fiendish advice and enjoy La-Mulana, and die often!